The places on this list are determined by no data whatsoever, just straight up being judgmental. Good grief, I'm just kidding, people, relax. Gotta love Michigan. Lots of beautiful beaches, lots of beautiful sand dunes. You know, lots of great places to visit. This is Mitten State Park, and there's actually 2 cities on this list that are not very far from where I am right now. These are the 10 worst places that you can live in Michigan. Number 10 is Kalamazoo.
How dare you?
Kalamawutta? Kalama-wanna-mova, as in you're gonna wanna move away, as crime here has been on the rise for a while now. Look, I actually like Kalamazoo, but you can't deny that it's got its fair share of problems. Crime will be a common theme on this list. You see, Michigan's got a lot of random cities spread throughout the state where an outsider would probably just think, "Aw, what an innocent, adorable, small, struggling city." Until you see the crime rates. The violent crime rate is 1,284 per 100,000 residents, while the property crime rate is 3,448 per 100,000 residents. According to our handy-dandy areavibes.com, that makes Kalamazoo the 7th most dangerous city in Michigan, meaning that there are 6 cities that are considered to be more dangerous.
Duh.
So it gets a lot worse from here. But to put things into more perspective, you have a 1 out of 78 chance of being a victim of a violent crime in Kalamazoo, which is 4 times higher than the national rate. It's sad though, because the city has a lot of things going for it. So if they can fix their crime problem, I feel like the place has a real shot to become Grand Rapids' little brother. You know, a small city hipster paradise. The county continues to grow in population, and the surrounding area has a lot of good places to live and raise a family. Just not in the city proper.
Nope.
Good news for you though if you're a part of the Kalamazoo Slappy Society, because it's only 10th on this list. There's 9 more to go. Number 9 is Battle Creek.
Hell yeah, it is.
Hey, if you're a Battle Creek resident, I'm not trying to embarrass anybody here. That's not my goal. But if you lost some underwear, I found it. It's here at Horseshoe Bend Park. Not too far away from Kalamazoo, Battle Creek is known for Kellogg's. Not even Tony the Tiger could save Battle Creek from being on this list, though.
Battle Creek. Good. It's great. Wait, what's the script? Oh, not so great? Not so great. Yeah. That's what I meant to say. Not so great.
Solid name for a city too when you consider the crime rates. The violent crime rate is 1,122 per 100,000 residents, while the property crime rate is 2,532 per 100,000 residents. The property crime rate isn't that much higher than the national average, but the violent crime is. Look, the crime rate here isn't as high of a rate as you'll see in Kalamazoo, but the struggling Battle Creek economy is what puts it higher on this list. Not only is the poverty rate 18% for Battle Creek, but the city has been losing people for a while now.
He had great credibility until he said that.
Yeah, well, looking at the numbers first glance, you'd probably think that I'm full of it, but if you look a little bit closer, you'll see that in 1950, Battle Creek hit a peak population of nearly 49,000 before falling to 35,700 in 1980. In 1982, Kellogg threatened to move its headquarters out of the city unless Battle Creek and the surrounding township merged all together as one. So because Battle Creek's identity has always been dominated by the big bad Kellogg company, the city lathered them all up in luxurious bath soap and gave them the massage and bath of a lifetime.
Don't talk to me.
Translation: Battle Creek gave the company exactly what they wanted, and all of a sudden Battle Creek's population spiked to 55,000 shortly after. That was just a cover-up though, as since then the population for Battle Creek has slowly trickled down.
Drip, drip, drip.
Because the reality is that Battle Creek's economy sucks, and outside of Kellogg's it doesn't have much going for it. Look, the place never diversified its economy. Only 22% of adults in town have at least a bachelor's degree, the home values are low, and the median household income is only $51,700 per year. Battle Creek's economy is equivalent to baby's underwear, so that's what mainly puts it 9th on this list. It's okay though, baby underwear still has value and you could be doing worse in Michigan. There's still 8 places on this list that are ahead of Battle Creek. Number 8 is Beecher and Mount Morris Township.
Been there, my friend.
Neither of these are cities. Beecher is a census-designated place, which Michigan doesn't have a lot of, and the other is a township, which Michigan has seemingly millions of. Beecher might as well be called North Flint. Mount Morris Township might as well be called West Flint. They're both basically visual extensions of Flint. Beecher looks more like a traditional, developed neighborhood of a larger city, while Mount Morris Township looks more like the outskirts of town. A few years ago, Beecher was named the worst place to live in Michigan by 24/7 Wall Street. The crime rates have ranged from sky high to high. Just high. The most recent violent crime rate for Beecher is 598 per 100,000 residents, while the property crime rate is 1,900 per 100,000 residents. The bigger problem is that the economy is basically non-existent. In 2000, Beecher was home to 12,793. The latest estimate shows that it's home to just 8,798. That's a decline of 31% in just 25 years. 31% in just 25 years. My goodness, how bad does a place have to be to lose 31% of its population in just 25 years? It's like the Sears and Roebuck Corporation. That's how bad it is.
Damn.
If this trend continues, Beecher will eventually be no more. Just a lone soul on the block here and there, just like how Sears has only 5 stores left. Unless something changes, and I don't think anything will change here, do you? That number will just keep going down, down, and down. Look, few places in Michigan, let alone the entire country, are as depressed as the north side of Flint. Other areas surrounding, I'm assuming to your surprise, are actually not all that bad.
What up, other places that aren't all that bad?
But driving through and seeing Beecher and Mount Morris Township is like watching a Michael Myers movie. Mount Morris Township has more abandoned retail properties than Canada has Tim Hortons. Drive up and down Clio Road and you can see it all. Or drive over to the Pearson Road exit off of I-75 and you can see it all there too. For the non-Michigan or Midwest crowd watching this video, Meijer is one of the big retailers around here. That's right, not Walmart, and abandoned Meijer stores are something that you almost never come by, especially in Michigan. There's one in Mount Morris Township though, and that tells you everything that you need to know about the local economy, doesn't it? She gone. Mount Morris Township can't even support a Meijer store. Poor Mount Morris Township. Either that, or a combination of both that and theft rates being so high that Meijer couldn't justify keeping it open. Anyway, moving on now. Look, I'm aware that I get under the skin of some of you when you see your city or municipality featured on a list like this, or maybe I've gone there and dropped a couple of truth bombs and it didn't sit with you well. Either way, if that's you, this video sponsor is for you.
This video is brought to you by the official 1-800 number for people who are offended by YouTubers. We understand the unbearable emotional trauma of watching a free video online. That's why we created a hotline staffed by highly trained professionals. Well, professionally trained to pretend to care. Call 1-800-555-5555 now to get the validation you absolutely deserve.
Number 7 is a select handful of Downriver suburbs.
Been there, done that.
Just like the last selection featured a duo of cities, so does this one. Actually, it's a trio of cities rather than a duo of cities. Most of Downriver is actually alright, despite the reputation, it's just old. In some spots, smelly.
Stings the nostrils.
With all the ancient landfills, and not as pretty as other suburbs of Detroit might be. Either way, Ecorse and River Rouge might as well merge together and be the same city. They both suck, they're both corrupt, and they're both taxed out of their minds. They're like Detroit's version of the South Chicago suburbs, but to a much, much lesser scale. And the city of Inkster is like the long-lost cousin because it's the exact same. The only thing that separates it is just 7 miles. You might be sitting there saying, how dare you say stuff that's so disrespectful towards the residents of these communities? That's not what I'm saying at all, actually. That's not what I'm saying about these places or any places that I'm mentioning. It's nothing personal. It's based on factual evidence of corruption and lots of it. That's not the residents, that's the people who are running the city. Anyway, in 2021, the Ecorse City Council voted to get rid of their police chief. He gone. after he revealed that the city officials played a role in a cover-up over the handling of stolen vehicles. In 2012, the former director of the state and federal programs for the River Rouge School District was sentenced to 5 years in prison after laundering $160,000 from a tutoring company. And last but not least, in August 2025, the former mayor of Inkster was sentenced to 2 years in jail for demanding $100,000 in bribe payments. Those are just a few of the many cases of corruption that's gone on in this trio of cities over the years. Meanwhile, these communities have some of the worst performing schools in the state, and the highest property taxes in the state. That's the magic formula for a declining city. Property taxes on this house listed for $189,000 at the time of me making this video are $5,000 a year. Compared to other suburbs with better schools further north, you won't be paying $5,000 a year on annual taxes until you reach a house that's worth $400,000. And of course, not only do you get the better schools, but you get way better city services in each and every way, and much lower crime rates. I wouldn't pay $5,000 in taxes on a $200,000 house when you know that that's the trade-off. Would you?
Nope.
Exactly. Look, there's a reason why people aren't looking to move to either three of these cities, Inkster, River Rouge, and Ecorse, and there's a reason why they're continuing to see sharp declines in population. Whenever people can leave, they do. Plus, River Rouge is downwind from the Marathon oil refinery, so moving away can be like a breath of fresh air as well.
Well, this next place on the list has reached new heights, but not in a good way.
Number 6 is Muskegon Heights.
Is that even a real place?
There's no reason why anyone would choose to live in Muskegon Heights when looking to move to the Muskegon area. In 2023, Muskegon Heights made the top of the list of Michigan's most dangerous cities, which, trust me, is saying something. They don't call it the murder mitten for nothing, you know. The violent crime rate here is 1,710 per 100,000 residents, and the property crime rate is 3,278 per 100,000 residents. Those rates are through the roof. Man, holy cow, how do people live like that? I mean, what are we doing here? It's why everyone who is left in Muskegon Heights is scrambling to find a way out to seek a better quality of life. Unless they're not, I guess, but the population graphs suggest otherwise. In 1960, Muskegon Heights saw its population peak at 19,500 people. Today, that number is below 10,000, and who's to say that this trend isn't going to continue? What has changed here to make you or anyone else believe that that number won't be below, let's say, 7,000 soon? It's only a matter of time. Unfortunately, the poverty rates are sky high here too. There's really nothing good about this place except for the people here who don't commit crimes. I'm sure they are great people. There are plenty of affordable places to live in the Muskegon area, just don't pick Muskegon Heights. Oh, by the way, there's plenty of corruption to speak of here too, which is a very common theme among these poverty-stricken, crime-ridden cities, unfortunately so. It's a domino effect with these places. A decline in the tax base or a loss in tax revenue followed by corrupt officials, followed by high poverty rates and high crime rates, and at times, high property taxes. It's sad.
Hey guys, this next place, I'm not sure if you've heard about it. This might come as a shock.
Number 5 is Detroit.
Good luck with that.
As in, good luck explaining to the Detroit Comeback City Brigade that Detroit made this list. Look, I'll be the first to say that Detroit has made some real comeback efforts as of late. I live right outside of Detroit, and it's always been my favorite large city. Looking into the reasons as to why Detroit fell apart the way that it did is what got me interested in these deep dives into cities. However, there are still many issues that plague the city, and it's going to take generations to see a real comeback. And within that very long period of time, the city must continue to do things the right way, continuously, throughout. Look, there is more abandoned land in the Detroit city limits than there is in any other city in this country. Most of Detroit's comeback, if not all of it, can only be seen in a 2-mile radius that surrounds the downtown area. There's a few neighborhoods here and there that are further away from downtown that have seen some uplift, and that's good to see, but not many. But back to downtown, the city has seen its first true skyscraper get built in decades. The sports teams that left for the suburbs have moved back into downtown. The office space continues to be filled up throughout Detroit, even post-2020. The neighborhoods surrounding downtown have seen some major investments, and things are a night and day difference in many parts surrounding downtown. It really is a great thing to see, and I mean that. But head outside of downtown and the city still looks like this. Crime is still out of control in a lot of areas, with the violent crime rate being over 1,700 per 100,000 residents and the property crime rate being over 4,000 per 100,000 residents. But you have to give credit where credit is due, because that is a lot better than it used to be in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. In fact, Memphis, St. Louis, and Baltimore are all now considered to be more dangerous cities than Detroit. But the fact that being in 4th place on the most dangerous large cities list in the US is a win for Detroit tells you all that you need to know. There is still a long road ahead on Detroit's comeback journey, and let's just hope that the city can stay on track. I think I'm safe in assuming that most of Michigan wants to see this happen, so hopefully it can. I'm going a little bit long on this, but one thing that I wanted to mention about Detroit that doesn't get talked about enough is those darn property taxes. Look at this house. Nice, right? Nice house in the University District, which is a nice Detroit neighborhood that's managed to hold itself together over the years, but look at the taxes on that bit. No way. Not today. Never in my life. With property taxes that high, you would need the best schools in the country, the best city services in the country, the best police and fire response times in the country to justify that, and Detroit has none of those things. Not even close. The taxes are simply that high as a result of decades of corruption, decades of the city losing its tax base, and decades of the city mishandling their finances. The city is due for an extreme tax reform. We'll see if it ever happens. Well, hey, speaking of property taxes, really quick, as if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. If you don't, a corrupt city official might show up at your door tomorrow pitching yet another property tax hike that they're barely pulling off by the skin of their teeth. Karma is real. I'm telling you. So just like the video.
Just do it!
Thanks. Number 4 is Flint.
Yikes.
Downtown Flint, to probably many people's surprise I'm going to guess, is actually pretty decent. They turned an abandoned auto plant to a nice wide open park just west of downtown. The airport has cheap flights to Vegas and Florida, and you don't have the crowds that you'll find at the Detroit Metro Airport. There's also a few historic charming things about the city, and it can be seen in a few neighborhoods, but that's about where the good things end, because unfortunately, there's a lot of not so good things about the city. Unless you've lived under a rock your whole life, you probably know about the whole Flint water crisis thing, where residents throughout the city suddenly had discolored tap water and extremely high levels of lead found in their tap water. It was a national story. Apparently, that whole thing is over now. Unless it's not. Most reports seem to agree that it's over now, but for a while there were a bunch of conflicting reports, but not so much more anyway, so maybe it is over now. But there's more to the story of Flint. Back in the good old days, Flint was a hustlin', bustlin', gustlin' auto manufacturing town, primarily being overpowered by General Motors. Until it wasn't. Although GM still has a presence in this town, it doesn't employ near as many people as it used to, and instead of diversifying its economy, the popular thing to do was scream and cry, "Why? Why, General Motors, did you leave us?" That was the culture, and in some cases, that still is the culture. The Flint culture. Look, the city's economy never diversified, it fell apart, and it hasn't yet recovered. Plus, crime has been rampant over the years. Currently, the violent crime rate is over 1,200 for every 100,000 residents, just like it is for most of the places on this list. It used to be a lot worse. The poverty rate in this town is 40.7%. 40.7%. That's the poverty rate. Unbelievable. The median household income is just $33,000 per year, which by today's standards is equal to working full-time at McDonald's. What a shame. Not too many places have a lower median household income than that. And by the way, when I say that, a lot of people think that I'm taking shots at people who are not wealthy, who are poor. That's not what I'm doing at all. I'm talking about the city's economy. Anyway, lastly, there's not a single traditional public high school left in the Flint city limits. A city with 80,000 residents doesn't have a single traditional public high school, and don't tell me that Southwestern is a traditional public high school. It's an academy school. There's a difference, people. All right, well, There are some things to build some positive momentum off in Flint. There's U of M Flint, there's downtown Flint, there's Kettering University, there's still some nice neighborhoods in the downtown area that look really nice, but a lot of work needs to be done in order to turn things around here. Hopefully it happens. Well, if you're mad at me and you live in Flint, the next place on this list makes Flint look like paradise in some ways. Number 3 is Benton Harbor.
Been there, done that.
The wonderful sandy dunes along the Lake Michigan shoreline that are just minutes away from this city are just one of the things that are stopping Benton Harbor from being number 1 on this list. If you're someone who had no clue about this town of only 9,000 people these days, after you drive through and see some of the data, you would be flabbergasted when you find out that there's a Fortune 500 company that has Benton Harbor as its address.
What do you mean by that?
Benton Harbor was once a thriving place, until it wasn't. The story of decline in Benton Harbor can mostly be attributed towards the ugly trifecta. What is the ugly trifecta? Well, it's segregation, disinvestment, and concentrated poverty. Benton Harbor is actually one of 2 cities in this area. The 2 are often called the Twin Cities, but they certainly aren't identical twins. They're more like polar opposite twins. In the 50s and 60s, Benton Harbor saw an increase in the black population as people moved from the south to work at the factories. But then, white flight happened. Auto parts manufacturing made up a lot of the industry here, and that industry has declined over time. Benton Harbor ended up losing over half of its tax base, meaning that they couldn't properly fund the city budget. Things continued to fall apart, and everything here ended up being a long, downward spiral that still continues to this day. Now, something that hasn't been reported on in the news all that much, but probably should, is the fact that Benton Harbor has been found to have a higher concentration of lead in its tap water than Flint ever did. That's right. For 6 straight sampling periods, the city failed to meet safe drinking water levels with its tap water. Back in 1960, the city hit a peak population of over 19,000. Today, it's home to less than 9,000. That's a loss of 10,349 people, or a decline of 54%. And it doesn't appear that anything will change or get better here anytime soon. Plus, the poverty rate is 42%. Wow, that's even worse than Flint. 42% poverty rate, with the median household income as low as $29,600. That's like part-time work these days. That's extremely low, and it doesn't get much lower than that. Really, Benton Harbor is a sad place with a really questionable future, while the area that surrounds it is actually doing okay economically.
I'll tell you this, I'm not in Benton Harbor, but you can get these views right outside of Benton Harbor too. So, is it really all that bad? Yeah, it kind of is actually.
Number 2 is Saginaw.
Duh.
Sag nasty up in this bitch. I said beach. Come on, I said beach.
Duh.
And Saginaw doesn't have one.
Sag Nasty is the organic nickname given to the city among fellow Michiganders, but I mean, come on, you knew this was going to be up in the rankings on this list. Saginaw doesn't have much going for it at all these days. Right outside of Saginaw, you have a few suburbs, or townships, that are decent places to live, but that just further proves my point that Saginaw doesn't have much hope for the future. The city of Saginaw. Anyone who is looking to move to this area is not going to look in Saginaw proper. They're going to look in the surrounding Saginaw Township, or quite possibly Midland, which is just up the road. Why on earth would anyone move to Saginaw?
Bruh.
I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but why on earth would anyone move to Saginaw? I mean, there are good things to mention about the Saginaw Bay area. Midland is a pretty nice city. It's to the northwest. Saginaw Valley State University is a decently sized school, but it's outside of the city limits, you know, out in the burbs. So its economic impact has zero positive effect on the city of Saginaw itself. Look, there are no jobs in Saginaw, the schools are bad, the crime is sky high, so high that the violent crime rate is 2,200 per every 100,000 residents. Holy crap! Saginaw's economic journey is the same as many other Rust Belt cities. The economy strongly relied on the auto industry. It still does today with the GM powertrain plants in town, but of course, it doesn't employ as many as it used to. Anyway, the poverty rate here is 33.7%. Not good. It's long gone from being a city that supports nearly 100,000 people, and it will likely never reach that number again unless the city somehow annexes the surrounding townships, which will probably not happen. The population is now down to 42,722, which is a loss of over 55,000 people, or a decline of 56.5%. Wow, just wow. For my entire lifetime, and likely yours, Saginaw has been known for its extremely high crime rates and just as being a place that you wouldn't want to go. Hopefully that changes one day, but only time will tell, and if I had to place a bet, it would be really hard to place a bet on Saginaw being able to turn things around at this point. Things in Saginaw just aren't good, nor will they be anytime soon probably. I mean, hello? That's why people are continuing to move out by the thousands between every census count.
Duh.
Come on now. Alright, so, how on earth could a city in Michigan be worse than Detroit, Flint, Benton Harbor, or Saginaw? Well, it can be worse, and the number one place on this list is... Number 1 is Highland Park, Michigan.
I'm number 1.
If you followed me for a while, you're probably not surprised here. If you're new to this channel, well, there you go. I mean, you can't get much worse in America than Highland Park. Look, I'm not trying to be mean, it just is what it is. Highland Park is essentially an inner city neighborhood of Detroit. It's basically surrounded by Detroit on all sides, with the exception of Hamtramck for a short little stretch. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it became a part of the city of Detroit one day with the way that the population continues to decline, and I just don't see how the city can continue to function on its own in the future. Highland Park used to be the headquarters for Chrysler, until they fled for Auburn Hills, which is a much, much nicer and wealthier suburb in the Detroit area. There used to be 53,000 people that called Highland Park home. Today it's home to just 8,250. That's a decline of 44,700 people, or 84.4%. You'll only ever see a handful of cities like Highland Park in America that have seen such a dramatic collapse. Highland Park is literally a city that's on life support. 41% of the residents live in poverty, and the median household income is just $27,500. For today's income standards, that's like 15 hours a week at the tire shop. It's truthfully hard to see Highland Park being able to eventually come back one day. I really think that it will be annexed by Detroit eventually, because eventually it's either just not going to have the ability to be a functioning city, or everyone would have moved out. It's a shame. Highland Park was the location for the mass production of Model Ts. How many cities around the Midwest especially do you know that has a Model T festival? Yeah, well, a lot of them were made right here. And that's a big part of what helped shape America to be the car-centric culture that it is today. Honorable mentions for this list includes Albion, which is just a small town hanging on by a thread, Jackson, which I don't think is as bad as many people say, but it does have its issues, and Pontiac, which is surrounded by rich people with large houses on private lakes, so at least Pontiac can lean on the other cities around it for its economic woes.
But at least Michigan can brag about having sunsets over water. The sun isn't quite setting yet, but it's about to in a couple hours, and I ain't sticking around for it. But hey, there you have it. The 10 worst places in Michigan.
As we all know, lists like this are subjective. You know, the worst of this, the best of that. My list will be different from your list or somebody else's list. What do you think of this list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down below. Meanwhile, here's a playlist of all of the videos that I've made on Michigan throughout the years. We'll see you in the next video. Peace!